So I've been looking at some UHS-2 cards for the Sony A7S III, and I've been doing cost-benefit analysis between the speeds that they provide, the amount of storage they are, and their cost. I'll show you how to do that equation towards the end when I show you the spreadsheet that I've made for these 4 cards that we're going to be looking at in this specific video. Obviously, there are tons of brands and tons of different storages and tons of different speeds for a bunch of cards, but we're just going to cover the 4 ones that I think are of particular interest for A7S III shooters. So the first one is this Prograde V90 card that happens to be 256 gigabytes. This is a pretty good card, 240 bucks. This is really good compared to the other stuff that I'll show you in a minute. The important thing to notice about this one is that the write speed is capped at 250, which is different than the other cards that I'll show you now. Here is the Sony 256 gig version of this card essentially, but as you can see, it's not really as fast as the Prograde one because this is a V60 card, which means it can only do maintain 60 megabits a second, while the Prograde one can do 90. Also, it's important to note that the write and read on this is worse than the 256 gig Prograde one. But Sony make another one, which is a 128 gig one, which is, as far as I can tell, this series is the fastest set of SD cards that you can get on the planet right now. I might be wrong about that. I've looked at it and I couldn't find anything else. And as you can see, these reads and writes are the most. You can't beat this. I think this is the theoretical limit of the UHS-2 SD card form factor. And you'll notice also that it's a V90 card. So as far as I'm concerned, if you're just going for performance, this is kind of the best. It is $30 cheaper than this one, but then again, you get more than, obviously exactly twice as much storage as this one, though its writes aren't as fast, but it is a V90 card, and that's kind of what you're looking for when it comes to this. But there is another. There is the new wicked expensive 160 gig CFast Express Type A Sony card. This thing is wicked fast. It's more than twice as fast. It's like 2.5 times as fast, right? But it's also $400. I'm going to be getting this one, but I'm going to make a video separate to this as to why I think this makes sense to buy. I know I look insane now, but you'll see why in the future. Anyway, this one has a very high cost analysis or cost benefit analysis because of its high price and relatively low storage capacity, because again, this is 160 gig, whereas this one is 256. So here's the spreadsheet that I've made to compare these specific 4 SD cards that I just showed you. So as you can see here, the Sony 128, the really fast one, costs about $1.64 per gigabyte. The Prograde is 93 cents a gigabyte. The Sony 256 is 50 cents, so that's pretty damn good, although it is the V60 card. And then you've got the big chungus Sony 160 gig CFast Express A card, which is $2.50 per gigabyte. Again, I'm not really sure what the V rating on this one is, because on the advertisement page, they have it listed as this little 400 here. You can see it bigger there. I'm not sure if that means at minimum that you can write 400 megabytes a second, but if that's true, that's really impressive. That's really good. So one of the things that people I've seen talk about is they're going to wait until a company like Prograde make a CF Express Type A card to compete with this card that'll be probably substantially cheaper and perhaps even bigger. But I don't think it'll be as fast. And the reason I say that, again, is because Sony's cards are, as far as I can tell, the fastest SD cards that you can get. So I'm not really sure that when this card does get competition, and it will get competition, that it'll be as fast as this. Again, I'll make a separate video on this. It's kind of interesting. I hope it doesn't sound insane. So here are the bit rates for the camera. I'm going to link all of this stuff in the description for you to have a look at. So if you're just shooting, 24 frames a second, 30 frames a second, you can see that the bit rates for some of these are 200 megabits. Some of them are 280. These are for the 120 or 100 frames a second and 120 frames a second. Those are 280. I think those ones require the V90, but won't work with the V60. But then again, you can always get some amount of burst from these cards. It just won't be able to sustain it. And I figure if you're shooting that high of a frame rate, you're going to be using it in burst anyway. If the burst, the thing is, we don't know if the burst is 5 seconds or if it's 5 minutes. We don't know, so that's kind of tricky. Now this is a really cool tool. I'm going to link this one. This is a calculator that that lets you plug in your bit rate, and it'll spit out the duration of time that you can use for that bit rate. So personally, I'm going to be shooting pretty much everything. Where's my codec? And this guy, 4K, 422, 10-bit, 60 frames a second. Perfect. I'm going to plug that in. That's 200 megabits a second. That'll go up here. Now let's assume that I'm getting this card, the 256 V90 card. We'll plug in, say, I don't know, 2 hours, 120 minutes. We'll spit out the calculation. We get 180 gigs, so I can add more onto that. Let's try 150 minutes. That gives us 225. Let's do another 10 minutes on top of that. 160, 240. I can go even higher than that. 70. Okay, right there. We can get 170 minutes of record time on this card at this bit rate. Such a cool tool. I love this thing. So let's try the 160 gig one. So same bit rate on here. We can plug in, let's try 2 hours again, see what happens. 180, so significantly less. Let's do 10 minutes less. Okay, so about 105 minutes of record time for what, like twice the price? Yeah, I know, I sound insane. I'll explain it in the future, trust me. So this is a really cool tool to analyze a lot of things that will help you with your particular SD card. So the math that you can use for this is just dividing the cost by the amount of gigabytes that it has. So you would take $240 divided by 256, and that's your cost per gigabyte right there. Very handy. Obviously, it doesn't calculate for speed as well. You could make your own math equation that gives a value to V90 or V60 above other things and then calculate that out. But again, some people will need V60 and some people will need V90. It's kind of up to you and what bit rates you're going to be using. So I hope this was interesting. I hope you learned something, and I hope these tools provide you everything you need to make your own calculations to figure out what you in particular need. So again, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one where I try and not sound crazy about buying a $400 SD card. But until then, see ya.